Good evening and welcome to a special Saturday 5. Tonight, it's war. The latest is the US and Israel launch strikes on Iran. Several top Iranian military commanders have reportedly been killed. Iran's ayatollah may also be dead. Here's how it started. You'll remember all those months ago, the Iranians took to the streets to protest against the ayatollah. The Iranian regime responded by killing tens of thousands of them, and America said help is on the way. There was the largest buildup of military firepower in the history of the United States, possibly in the history of the world. There were some negotiations, but they failed. And this morning, President Trump said this.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime.
And the US and Israel launched those joint strikes.
Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Okay, all right.
Iran hit back thundering missiles into several of the Gulf states, including Dubai. Roughly 250,000 Brits currently live in Dubai. Thousands more will be on holiday there right now. Reports in the last couple of hours indicate that Kuwait International Airport has been largely destroyed by Iran. We've had very concerning footage in the last few moments as well, showing that Iran appears to be deliberately targeting more civilian targets in places like Bahrain. More on that as we get it. But Sir Keir Starmer has responded to say that British warplanes are in the sky, ready to defend our allies in the region.
The United Kingdom played no role in these strikes, but we have long been clear. The regime in Iran is utterly abhorrent.
The world is on the brink tonight. Over the course of this show, we will give you all the latest. Is the ayatollah dead? Will Iran flatten Dubai? What will it mean for us here in Britain? Today, we were seeing pro-Iran protests on our streets. We know that there are Iranian terrorist sleeper cells right here already. And of course, were those US strikes even legal? Does that matter? It's hard to comprehend a bigger news event. And tonight, in the studio, we are joined by Will Kingston, Renee Hunderkamp, Trey Lowe and Kai Wilshaw. We're also going to be taking you live to Dubai in a matter of moments. We'll be taking you live to Tel Aviv as well. And, of course, we'll be hearing from some American Republicans. Is this really America first? But as we bring back up those live shots of the skies over Tel Aviv, where the air raid sirens have been blaring all evening, Will, I'll start with you. How much should Britain be involved here? Your compatriots in Australia, also the Canadians, they've backed what the Americans did. Britain so far has not fully.
Rhetorically, at the very least, the United Kingdom should be behind America. The Iranian regime is evil. Only weeks ago, they slaughtered 40,000 of their own citizens. They've been behind pretty much every state-sponsored terrorist activity over recent years. It would be much better for the world, for the Middle East and for the Iranian people if this regime was to be toppled. And the United Kingdom should be rhetorically supportive of this, and they should be militarily supportive to the extent that there are not boots on the ground.
Yeah, what do you think, Renee?
I think as a woman, and I think there's a lot to say here for women, that the UK should stand behind America and try and rid the world of this evil. Women are being murdered here day by day for just existing. And if we can, with America, get rid of this evil, evil regime, then it has to be a good thing.
Trey, your views?
Yeah, no, I disagree. You know, I agree with the fact that it's an evil regime, but I disagree. I can't believe we're here again, doing the same thing before. We were promised weapons of mass destruction, the world will get better. And what happened? You destabilised the region. Europe got flooded with over 1 million refugees, and we're doing it again. We haven't learned those lessons from the past.
Kai?
You know what? I think Keir Starmer, for once, has got something right here. I think a little bit of caution before going full-throated in the way that some have. But I think this is in line with lots of what European allies have said. But of course, there was criticism early in the morning that he hadn't said anything. And we know now that's because British jets were going into the skies, taking defensive positions, and that's the right thing. We should be supporting the US and Israel in this critical time.
OK, look, I want to take you straight to Dubai if we can, because some of the footage that you're looking at now is of that. So Iran has been firing missiles at various different hotels, drones, we believe, as well. I'm going to take you to Ivon Sampson, who is a human rights lawyer, actually, who happens to be in Dubai at the moment. Ivon, thank you very, very much. I'm glad to see that you appear to be safe. What's it like where you are now?
Well, Patrick, since about 4 o'clock this afternoon, up until about 8 o'clock, which is 2 hours ago, there were bombs coming across where I am. And you heard explosions, maybe 3 or 4, sequentially, one after the other. And I'm just going to go out onto my balcony. And you can see you think it's relatively quiet, but there's hardly any traffic at the moment.
Let's have a look.
I don't know if you can see across this building into Jebel Ali, where there's a industrial complex. I think that's probably what their target was, but we're just not used to it in Dubai. I mean, it's a country where this sort of thing just doesn't happen. I don't think that Dubai's ever had a missile strike from a foreign country in its history. So it's very unusual for this sort of thing to happen here. The British community are contacting each other on their various WhatsApp groups. So I'm getting lots of messages from my friends telling me where the bombs are dropping. It's quite scary here, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm going to let the panel ask you whatever they like.
Will Kingston here. It's notable that so many of the Arab states have joined with the US, at least rhetorically, in supporting the downfall of the regime. What do you make of the position of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and those other Arab countries in how they have responded to the US intervention?
Well, they've supported the US as far as I'm aware, and they've let the US use their bases and use their territory to launch these strikes. And Iran, I mean, we're hearing reports. I've got friends in Bahrain, and it's been horrendous bombing in Bahrain. So I've got friends who've been messaging and texting me, telling me about residential buildings being attacked by drones.
That's what we're looking at now. Now, Ivon, sorry to cut you off. You won't be able to see this, but I just want to let our viewers and listeners know that is what we're looking at now. This is a residential building in Bahrain that appears to have been hit by a drone. But Ivon, sorry, carry on. You were saying about your friends in Bahrain. Yeah,
so my friends in Bahrain told me about this building being hit right near where they are. And I think that must be it. Also, the Fairmont Hotel in Palm Jumeirah, it's just unheard of. It's a purely residential area. It's a very popular for British tourists. People come and enjoy the Palm Jumeirah and in particular that hotel, and that's been hit. Also this afternoon I was having lunch with friends in Dubai Hills Mall and who live in the Burj Khalifa, and they had messages to evacuate the building. So I think the Emirates are just following their protocols, which no doubt they've planned for this event. But
so,
it's
Ivon,
extremely
hi.
worrying to be still.
Hi, Ivon, it's Renee. When you're out and about talking to people, as you did at lunch today, what is the general feeling? Do they want this regime to fall?
I didn't do a quick survey. What I did find, though, was that complete strangers, a lot of the Brits, and Dubai Mall has a lot of Brits in there, Dubai Hills Mall, you were talking to complete strangers about what's going on, and they all had the same concern that if it's a long, drawn-out war, we will be pretty much stuck in Dubai. I was supposed to go back tomorrow for a trial and mediation next week, and that's obviously put on hold. But I'm not sure how long this conflict is going to last. But while it's going on, the Brits are stuck here.
Are there any instructions that are being given out to people in Dubai about what they should do, places they should go for safety? Because you're out there on your balcony. It seems pretty dangerous to me.
Well, we've been told to close our curtains and stay away from windows. That's the only instructions we've had so far. And I'm sure there must be civilian defence instructions going to come out on the news, but I've not seen any, no.
Gosh, and actually, we are joined by Trey here as well, who's one of the regular Saturday Fivers. Trey, you were saying that you are due to be going to Dubai.
Yeah, I was actually there only 2 weeks ago. In fact, I used to go past the Fairmont in order to get down to the, it's called the Atlantis, isn't it, at the end of the Palm. So it's quite worrying.
That's
I literally
great.
could have just been driving past there with my wife and my kids. Do you get a sense of panic out there, or is it just pretty chilled so far?
It's pretty chill, to be honest. We're just not used to this sort of trauma.
Yeah.
We're not used to it, but people here just don't really know how to take it in. And I think if it escalates, I think that may well change, because at the moment, we wouldn't think there's a conflict out there. If I looked out on the balcony, there's not a lot happening right now. But buildings like the Burj Khalifa and the Burj Al Arab and the Dubai World Trade Center, these are iconic buildings in Dubai, and I'm sure they've got the Emirati government have got plans to protect them.
Absolutely. Look, Ivon, thank you very much. Please stay safe. Take care. I do hope that maybe we can check in with you again in a little bit. I want to give our viewers and listeners a couple of breaking news lines. It might be worth bringing up if we've still got it. The skies over Tel Aviv, because I'm hearing reports that Benjamin Netanyahu might be speaking at a press conference shortly. So if that happens, and presumably it's in English, then obviously we will take that for you. There's also been an update since we came on air here, which is from Iran's foreign ministry. So you can make of this what you will. But Iran's foreign ministry has claimed that the supreme leader and the country's president are both alive and well. So you might remember a good few hours ago, Israeli media especially was reporting that they would be stunned if the Ayatollah was still alive, based on their bombing campaign that they launched earlier on. Well, the Iranian's foreign ministry is saying that the supreme leader is, quotes, safe and sound. Well, we can obviously take that maybe with a pinch of salt. I'm not sure how much you can believe the Iranians, but maybe he's a mile underground somewhere in one of these bunkers. But yeah, look, Kyle, I'll just come to you on this. I mean, what is undeniable now about all of this is that whether or not Britain was right to stop the Americans from using our military bases to launch attacks on Iran. Iran has responded by deliberately targeting civilian areas. They're a regime that has killed tens of thousands of their own civilians in recent weeks. Surely this is the moment that we have to do everything to topple the Ayatollah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what will show this war to be different to what we saw last June is that, as well as European nations who will be thinking about their citizens, civilians who are in Dubai and the Gulf states themselves are also being drawn into this conflict in a way that Hassan al-Hassan, a senior fellow at IISS, was saying maybe they saw war as unnecessary, right? Iran was already deterred in their view. But then there's huge risks now in terms of the retaliation we're going to see from Iran. So yes, it does draw us in, and it does beg the question, can we be more involved? I know Keir Starmer will be quite cautious on this, but also I think probably we will be amongst the leading figures, at least in the European response to what we've seen.
There was a hint in Starmer's speech earlier this morning when he said that there were at least 20 potential or planned terrorist attacks in the UK in the last 12 months where they could identify Iranian backing for it. So he was making a very deliberate effort to tie potential terrorism in the United Kingdom to the Iranian regime.
As did Albanese and as did Carney in Canada and Australia as well, which has gone further than any of the European nations, I think, have, except a couple that have been burnt by this.
Yeah, and shortly, we've also got Will Godley, our reporter, who's spent all day at a pro-Iran demonstration in London, which is quite a remarkable thing to consider happening on our streets. But we'll get the updates from that. And that's the knock-on effect, isn't it? That'll be weighing on Keir Starmer's mind at the moment. Whatever the UK does abroad will have an impact here in Britain. I just want to bring in the director at the Afghan Human Rights Foundation, Mohammed Asif. Mohammed, thank you very much. Look, one of the big question marks over this is what will happen in terms of a refugee crisis as well? GBNews has been reporting on the possibility that whatever happens in Iran could lead to potentially millions of people obviously being displaced and therefore trying to come to Europe. I mean, do you see that that is a possibility, a kind of knock-on effect of everything that's happening here?
Well, it's really, really very ironic. You know, you guys are calling for toppling the Iranian regime. In the meantime, you're talking about the refugees, influx of refugees coming to Britain. And I'm sure you guys will be saying them again and over, send them back home, you know, once the crises are over. And this is an illegal war. It's not authorized by the United Nations. It is an aggression, and it's not even authorized by the American Constitution itself. The Congress has to authorize this particular war. And, you know, and this is an aggression against, I'm not a fan of the Iranian regime. It is an oppressive regime, but nobody has the right to topple a regime and change the regime. If we are talking about oppressive regimes, the Middle East is full of it. Israel, you know, which committed a genocide. You guys are showing particular buildings in Dubai and other parts of the world, but you are not showing, you know, you don't have the guts to show the 50 or 60 primary school children who were killed in American-Israeli attacks in Tehran today.
Well, we have been speaking about it actually on previous shows quite extensively. I mean, what you might not have seen, Mohammed, is there appears to be a little bit of discrepancy at the moment about whether or not that was actually a US or an Israeli airstrike, or whether it was a misfired rocket from within Iran. And I mean, that would absolutely be devastating. It doesn't change the outcome, which is appalling, of course, because you've got, as you've rightly said there, roughly speaking, about 50 or 60, mostly girls, believed to have been sadly killed. But there are reports coming out at the moment that it might have actually been the Iranians that did that, Mohammed. So you might want to hold your horses on that one.
Because
you doubt it, yeah.
The American and the Israelis, they go around and bomb, you know, people when they are, you know, sleeping, and they drop the worst bombs on them. You know, we have seen the American invasion in my country, in Afghanistan. You know, look at the state of Afghanistan now. Taliban are back in power. We have seen the war in Iraq, 1 million killed in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria, in Yemen, in Sudan, and now we have Iran, you know, which destabilized the whole entire Middle East. And you know, you guys don't talk about the Middle East because the Middle East are proxies of the American and Israeli wars against Iran. You know, I'm not a fan of the Iranian regime. I want to make it very clear. They're very oppressive. You know, they're terrorizing their own people. But if we're becoming the world police, the West, and especially America and Israel, going around and changing regimes, it's really, really unacceptable.
Mohammed, what was potentially also unacceptable was 40,000 Iranian people who were slaughtered by the Iranian regime only weeks ago, and that number is probably at the low side of the estimate. Do you think that provides... Let me finish my question. Do you think that provides a moral justification for this action, even if it may not be within the bounds of international law as strictly defined?
No, it doesn't justify, and I condemned it, and I condemned it from the very start, the killing of innocent citizens, you know, by any regime anywhere in the world. But we have a genocidal regime, the State of Israel, which killed 70,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children. You guys did not call for the regime change in Israel. Instead, you supplied them with more weapons, British and American weapons, you know, to kill more innocent women and children in Palestine. Sorry?
Do you think there should be regime change there? And if so, what's different in Iran?
It should be, yeah, because there's
so what's different in Iran?
And if you're, my point is, you did not call for a regime change in Israel. So how on earth are you calling for a regime change in Iran?
Mohammed, I mean, you're quoting figures. You've talked about the school where sadly 40 to 50 girls have been killed, and of course that's tragic. You're talking about 70,000 people, mainly women and children. Those figures have already been analysed in Gaza, and that's not the case. Most of the people...
that's the UN figure. That's the United
that's the UN figure. But we know that the UN actually had people...
The
Mohammed,
UN agencies. But my point is, if you are talking about regime change, you cannot select the regime change. You know, in Iran, you have to talk about the regime change in Israel.
If you can just let me finish my point, and then I'll give you as much time as you would like. What I was going to say was, you seem absolutely intent on just demonising Israel and the USA without looking around the world, looking at the millions of people in Sudan who are being terrorised and killed, starved to death in Yemen, concentration camps in China. Why is the focus always Israel and the US?
Because Israel and the US, they are the one who are, you know, creating insecurity. You know, like for example, example, in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Libya, in Syria, in Yemen, in Sudan, in Eritrea, now in Iran, in the Middle East. So the United States is the main aggressor in this cause, in this war. If we are talking, about illegal wars and regime change, we have to start it, from Iran, from the Middle East, in Israel, and many, many other oppressive regimes who terrorize their own citizens, including my own country in Afghanistan.
OK. Mohammed, thank you very much for your time this evening. It's Mohammed Asif there, who is the director of the Afghan Human Rights Foundation. Just